Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. I'm your host and your guide every Sunday night from 8 until 10 p.m. Eastern, live. You can watch us from our website, thebibleforum.net. I want to share with you what the founder and chairman of the Racial Policy Center said about our former President Barack Obama and his family. He said the Obamas have led blacks away from God. And keep in mind, this fellow, his name is Michael Massell. He's black. It was published this week, November 2018. And he writes, I recall a syndicated column I wrote November 16, 2003, which I wrote, over coffee and key lime pie, I posed the following question to a colleague. Name 10 things Jesse Jackson has done to tangibly help the black people he claims to represent. 2 hours later, he writes, the question remained unanswered. It brings me to the Obamas, specifically to Michelle Obama, he writes. I ask those blacks who are drunk with adulation for the Obamas, what have they done to help black people? Under Obama, an 8-year White House occupant, blacks were unemployed, but they did get Obama phones and food stamps. Under Obama, blacks were not even the recipients of Michelle Obama's throwaway clothes. She lived high off the proverbial hog. She was a jet-setting superstar. And Mr. Black observes that many blacks see skin color before they think constructively and then refuse to acknowledge shortcomings because the person is the right color. That's a definition of racism. This is why they see Michelle as a color in a lofty position who jukes and jives, he writes. Blacks aren't looking at policies, employment, or accountability to the people. Their cosmological view is based upon psychographics. They evaluate as keeping it black. So he asks the question, where is the equipoise? Counterbalance in being a sycophant. Guy's a show-off. He's a black man. He's talking about equipoise and sycophant. Okay. The author's point is, as he references a 2009 Pew Research Center report, that blacks are either disloyal to their own alleged system of religiosity or skin color has become their god. Blacks are cemented as the most religious American demographic, and yet religion is readily discarded because the color of skin somehow takes precedence. He says black ministers should explain how they can sanction the adulation of the Obamas. There is a definitional difference between religion and being religious, and another difference between those two and being born again as a child of God, living a Christian life. However, even with the acknowledged distinction between religious and Christian, the extreme to which the Obamas are separated from both cannot be overstated. He continues by saying, instead of fawning over these people, black ministers should be preaching against the sin these people personify. And he gives a case in point. Michelle Obama was regaled for recently telling the world that she will, quote, never forgive him, end of quote, referring to President Trump during her book tour. It's an important moment because what she said is antithetical to the very word of God that, in theory, blacks are supposed to adhere. And in theory, so is she. It takes a black man to say these things. But most of us have been watching and saying it for years. But when a white man says it, it's racism. I hope there's an educational aspect to this article.